Welcome back to another Reading and Correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. And if you are looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 107 of The Captain's Heart. Hi, Mom. I don't even know if you're going to get this. My friend tells me there's bound to be ways, but somehow I doubt that after what they did to me, those people are going to make it easy for anything I have to say to make it to Earth. Not that I'm going to talk about that. You won't believe how hard it's been to get myself to record this. It's been suggested for a long time now. At first, after finding out what you did to me, or allowed to be done, from what I remember, your role in it isn't that clear. Okay, this is going to be a new phrase. From what I remember, your role isn't that clear. I was too angry. Then I was too busy dealing with life here, and then, well, now I won't say that I'm angry still, more confused. I mean, why, Mom? What was so fucking difficult to accept about me not being like other guys? Why did finding a few drawings of me in Kelsirian send you up the wall and calling a doctor? Because the government told you to? Are we so fucking mindless? We do everything they say? Yeah, he's talking, so this is going to be present. Without once questioning it? Do you know what they put me through? How they hounded me everywhere after that treatment? How they use mind control stuff so I wouldn't be able to even look at a guy without feeling sick? How could you let them do that to me, Mom? He paused the recording to give himself time to calm down. He hadn't intended on losing his temper and considered removing that, but maybe if she saw how it still affected him on some level, he didn't know what he expected from her. It wasn't like she had any teenagers left to treat better, and his siblings would have already figured out how to raise their own kids, almost certainly following the government's guidelines perfectly. Fuck. He'd almost certainly be in the same position if he'd stayed on Earth after university. I don't think that's capitalized. So many people, so much pressure to do as expected. Maybe that was the real reason he'd accepted the position on Einstein. No parent asking on a weekly basis when he'd give them grandkids. No coworkers always asking who he'd bring to the company party. Well, not as many of them, anyway. Although the questions now took on a new slant with how close Dr. Omar Sawan stayed to him. Was he... What? Okay. That's what he was pretty sure he'd realized about him. Maybe that had played a part in leaving. One added to the utter inexplicable misery he'd felt. He started the recording again. Sorry about that. I'm not recording this to lay blame for something that happened decades ago and for which you couldn't know the consequences of. This is to tell you that I'm good. Well, that I'm doing well in spite of everything that's been done to me. I'm not perfect, but I'm confident I'm heading there. I don't know what they told you about me, if they told you anything. I found someone. I'm working through the problems that caused. I have friends, a job and friends. The work's not what I prefer. I'm way overqualified for it, if I'm being honest. But Kelsirians think differently about that stuff, and that means there can only be one engineer on a ship like this, and I'm not it. I was for a bit. While he recovered from the injuries that are the reason that led to me meeting him. But when he came back, I was demoted's not is too strong a word, but I had to become a technician. It was something of a learning curve. Not taking action was the hardest part to really learn. Kelsarians are strong on rank and their being an order to things. Chief among them, not inconveniencing the civilians on the ship. Hunters can suffer, but civilians shouldn't have to. Like I said, Kelsirians think differently. There's still a certain level of challenge. Regularly, he'll give me a job and not tell me anything about it beyond fix it. And I'll have to work out on my own. Work it out on my own. One time, the longest thing to work out was what was actually wrong. And yes, I could probably have gone to him and asked, but I also trusted that he wouldn't give me the work he didn't think I could do. And I didn't want to prove him wrong. My friends are from quite a few places on the ship. A couple of co-workers, as you'd expect, although one of them is also a hunter, which makes him part of their military, although it's not quite that. Rank is important to them, and that means that who they report to matters, and hunters don't report to the military directly. They report to a different power, which I don't know if I could explain within this recording. He chuckled. If you get this and find a way to reply and are curious about Kelsirian belief systems, ask and I'll do my best to give you the details in a way that makes sense. I have other friends among the hunters. A civilian mechanic, even a psychologist, has become enough of a friend that she lets me use a shorter form of her name. It's a Kelsirian thing, Mom. Something else you can probably ask if you reply, if you're interested. During my isolation, after what happened, I taught myself to cook. The printed food's good, but Kelsirians don't do complex meals the way we do. Something else you can't ask about. I got bread down pretty good. Ground meat is more about making the tool. Kelsirians don't ground theirs. With that, I managed a good shepherd's pie, although just about every ingredient had to be substituted. Your dad's strawberry pie still won't firm up. If you reply, send me a recipe. I would love to know what I'm not doing right. Pie is another thing Kelsirians don't do. Like I said, their meals are on the simple side compared to ours. Out of the east side. I guess that's going to be it. Just know that I'm happy. I love you. He was about to end the recording when he realized he'd forgotten something. Tell Dad I love him too. He ended it, hesitated, then sent it to his friend. Checked the time. He still had some before he needed to be ready for his shift. So he headed to his drafting table to work on personal projects. Jeremy had just taken the loaf of bread out of his oven on returning from work when the door buzzed. Calling up the image, he froze at the human on the other side of his door. The programming wasn't jumping around at a prospective rescue, but he still wasn't sure he wanted to be around him. He hadn't been around any humans since this torture. He was older than Jeremy expected, the neat beard and short brown hair streaked with gray. He looked a bit pale, but he realized that on a crashed ship there wasn't much chance to get sunlight. He banged on the door, and Jeremy startled. Look, he said, and for it to make it through the door, he had to be yelling. I've been told you might not want to be around me after what's been done to you, and I get it. Sure, not sure I'd want anyone reminding me of them either, but I'm in a pickle. Turns out my beer's poisonous to the people on the ship, and it was either drink it pronto or that captain of theirs would space my kegs. Since I'd rather not kill myself of alcohol poisoning after that stuff gave me reason to live, I thought you... Jeremy opened the door. Where did you get beer out here? Made it. The man offered his hand. Bob. Jeremy considered it, then shook it. Technician Jeremy Bradshaw. And Razabra added, being of the same species doesn't make us friends enough for anything shorter. More curious that you do that, period. But hey, you do you, you know. You have an odd way of speaking, Bob. Jeremy motioned the man in. That'll happen when you spend so long alone with only ancient Earth recordings speaking to you. Something smells good. The man licked his lip. Is that bread? Do they actually have bread on this ship and no one told me? I would kill for the taste of bread. It's mine. Kelsirians don't do leavened dough. Can I have some? He produced the data strip. This was going to be my other bribe if the beer didn't let me in, but I'll offer it in exchange for some of that. I'll offer it in exchange for some of that bread. It's a bunch of prints of human meals. Jeremy laughed. What? There was nothing about printed bread in it. The data was corrupted in the crash. All desserts and breads are gone. Still lots of good stuff, though. When's the last time you had chicken pot pie? Okay, that's worth it for bread. And being about able, yeah, another one again. And being able to print something would make it easier to recreate. Variety beyond his steaks. Oh, that's the mistake. There we go. Steaks. And attempts at dessert would be nice. And is there butter in there? Yep. Jimmy hurried to add the recipe to the printer, and then they enjoyed hot bread with freshly printed butter, along with the beer. And Dad, Bob snickered. That lizard eyes went wide. I kid you not, 3 times as wide as he looked at the business end of my SXX EX6 862 before I blasted him between the eyes. You fought against Terhunians? Jimmy asked. Yep, Bob frowns. Pretty sure I did. He shrugged. They screwed up my mind pretty badly, at least twice, maybe more. Made a mess of things in there, but I'm pretty sure that one's real. He raised his shirt and showed him 3 parallel scars. One of them gave me those. They didn't heal them fully? That gave Bob pause. I guess not. Maybe I told them not to? I do like them. Jimmy chuckled. I would not want a new reminder of any fight I'd get into. Fuck. I had my burns healed completely after I pulled the antimatter containment from the reactor. You're shitting me. Why'd you go and do that? They have experts to handle those. And you are looking at him. He grinned. You said you're a tech. Here, on Einstein, I was one of 2 antimatter engineers. If you don't count Dr. Manuel, but by the time I came on, she did mostly administrative stuff. And they made you a tech here? Already have an engineer. Can't have 2. It was be a tech or just stay at home. He was surprised that even drunk, he managed to stop that thought before the programming caught on. Or maybe that was also drunk. The snicker turned into a full-on laughter, and Bob just stared at him. I'm okay, Jeremy said once he could breathe. I'll take your word for it, Bob replied flatly and took another long swallow. Jeremy eyed his empty glass. 2 kegs on the counter, one of which wasn't open yet, and wasn't sure. And he wasn't sure if he should have more. Bob stood, then wobbled. Got to use the can. I think you'd be better off with the toilet. Old word for it. Where is it? He pointed to the hall. 3rd door on the left is the shower room. Toilets are at the back. Use any one other than the right one. That one's mine. You have a toilet just for you? Kelsirian are very private about going to the toilet. You don't look like one of them. He shrugged. I've lived here long enough to pick up on it, and I like never having to worry about if someone will move my stuff. I had to deal with that at university. Why do I keep capitalizing this? I do not ever want to deal with it again. So if you use mine, I better not be able to tell, or I'll think of a way to make you pay. You have my word, I won't. Bob staggered down the hall. Yeah, this here, like, I would like to establish that he's actually made it to the bathroom before coming across the weight machine. Yeah, there we go. That's going to work for a first draft. Jeremy was startled from his alcohol-induced semi-slumber by Bob yelling, "Holy fuck, you have an actual weight machine in here!" He wondered how long it had been. He was confident he made out the door when the other human reached the toilet, but then Jeremy took longer than he liked, staggering to the room. Bob was on the bench, trying to push the handle up. Why isn't this working? It's locked. You need to scan your bracelet. They give you one, right? Bob patted his pockets, then pulled it out. Jeremy showed him his. You should wear it. It's easier. He scanned it. Just pass it, and it'll create a profile. It'll run you through different weights to adjust your settings. That's a lot of work for something in your room. You got a lot of visitors. Designed the first one for a public room in one of the alleys, and you might want to stay out of those. They're leisure areas, and Kelsirians engage in. I know, and I saw. Got quite the eyeful too. These people do like their groups, don't they? Jeremy blushed at the memory of some such group he'd seen. Didn't think he'd be so unbothered. Bob shrugged. Different species. Not going to hold them to human government standards. Jerry noticed the wording and pushed through the alcohol haze. Government standards? Not your standards? Found out I'm like you in part of what like you. Found out I'm like you as part of what led to having to get rid of my beer. Well, confirmed it. I had suspicions before. I'd started looking at Lenny in, well, not government approved way, but he killed himself before I really knew how I felt. After that, along for way too long, the mind goes its own ways. The government really wouldn't approve of how I went about getting my pleasure. Here, three of them made their interest in me really clear. They got sick before things got very far, but it was far enough for me to know I wanted it, with both genders. And did you? Sorry, don't kiss and tell. Jeremy chuckled. That kind of makes you the exception on this ship. It feels at times the Kelsirians I know are not shy about talking about the sex they've had. How about you? You have, right, probably not something you want to talk about after what you went through. He focused on his breathing, even if he couldn't manage to visualize the containment chamber. It seemed to be enough. There was a muddled attempt by the programming to start a panic spiral, but there was no strength behind it. I'm good. I'm good. He told the other man. But yes, I'm not thinking about that right now. And that concludes chapter 107 of The Captain's Heart. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter will be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read this story, it's available on Ream Story. And if you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and YouTube. Links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.